TED Talks. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. TED Talks.
How would you feel if your home got destroyed and taken from you against your will?
And not even for something important, but to satisfy selfish intentions.
You'd feel vulnerable and attacked. That's exactly how the animals part of the Arctic tundra feel.
Their home has been under a long debate about whether it should be torn apart and used to provide oil in the US. This caused an outrage and led to non-stop debates.
That's why, in 1960, the United States government restricted an area of 78,051 kilometers devoted to protecting the fragile ecosystem. It's called the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. The ANWR has been an ongoing political and media controversy in the United States since 1977.
Did you know that the Arctic tundra has the lowest biodiversity in the world? The ANWR is home to approximately 200 wildlife species. Removing even the smallest element could cause the entire ecosystem to collapse, aka the cascade effect.
You might be asking yourself, why should I care? Well, although this is happening in Alaska, which is in the US, Alaska and Yukon border each other, therefore it does affect Canada.
So now that we know that this issue directly impacts us, we need to protect the ANWR from being drilled into.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Considering the low biodiversity in Alaska, it's positive that the ecosystem will crumble if we drill into the ANWR for oil.
An ecosystem is made up of a biological community and its physical environment. It provides an organism with what it needs to survive, including food, water, and shelter.
The climate in the Arctic is cold to begin with, meaning that growing seasons are short and wildlife doesn't have enough time to grow. When species are able to replenish themselves, they become scarce, and that makes the population smaller.
Not having the right amount of each species in the ecosystem is called the cascade effect.
The cascade effect is when a key part of the ecosystem is taken away, therefore affecting the entire community. An example of this would be in British Columbia, where an excessive amount of wolves were hunted, and that led to too many deer. The deer then ate more vegetation, diminishing the amount of trees and plants. It happened as fast as a match going up in flames.
A simple way to look at this is by observing toppling dominoes. When one falls over, the whole line falls, just like the cascade effect.
The ANWR is home to the largest porcupine caribou herd in the world, and oil drilling risks the loss of food, a home, and a life. Every year, 130,000 caribou travel through Area 1002 from Brooks Range to Beaufort Sea. Conclusions have been made that female caribou have been displaced.
In 1996, development structures noticed that because of the discovery of oil, that the male and female population of caribou have declined by 52%. Well, where does the cascade effect come into play? Studies have also shown that since there are oil facilities in the ANWR, the caribou are staying at a 4-kilometer range from the structures and have been staying away from the facilities.
Them staying away from that large piece of land causes them to overeat the grass in that particular area, having less land to provide for them, causing a lack of nutrients.
The National Audubon Society warns that no suitable alternative habitat exists for the porcupine caribou herd if they are driven from their calving ground by oil development.
The problem here is taking more oil than we have. In other words, overconsumption.
The concept of overconsumption is to consume something excessively, more than is needed to be. For example, when I eat Cheetos, I could stop at one handful, but I don't.
In 2007, America used approximately 7.5 billion barrels of oil, but drilling into the ANWR would only produce 1.9 to 4.3 billion barrels of oil in a year. That is not enough to feed the consumption rate of America.
Statistically speaking, if we do drill into ANWR, it would only make up for 3% of America's daily oil consumption, with the possibility of increasing 30%. As one can see, the cup isn't even half full, showing that drilling into ANWR will not even meet half of America's oil demand. One may argue that drilling into the ANWR will lower gas prices, but clearly not, because once again, the demands haven't been met.
As the rate of consumption is so high, there's a mere possibility of lowering the gas prices by a frail 3 cents in 20 years. After looking at these statistics, we're destroying the environment and drilling into the ANWR for a bare amount of oil.
The ANWR is in Alaska and therefore is right next to Canada. When such if the animals decide that there's nothing left for them in Alaska, they will move and look for a different place to relocate. This can mean many invasive species coming and invading Canada and destroying its ecosystem. If you've ever seen a home that's been infested with termites, you know it's a hazardous environment to live in. For the animals in the ANWR, there's no difference between oil drillers and termites.
According to research, drilling into the Arctic would affect
37 that walk on feet, 8 that swim in the sea, 42 are fishies, 200 are migratory.
Believe it or not, but global warming does come into play. If you continue to drill at the rate we're drilling right now, there will be a 1.5 degrees Celsius increase in the temperature by 2040.
Climate change is affecting polar bears as it is by ice melting. But if oil continues to be drilled and more pollution is created, polar bears will be close to extinct.
At the rate that Canada is using oil, we will not run out of oil for another 140 years. As for the USA, it will only take them 13 years to use up all their oil reserves.
Let them try drilling. You never know. They may find oil, we suggest. But the possibility of finding 3.4 billion barrels of oil is 1 in 5. And that wouldn't even cover for half of the amount of oil used in a year. You only get one chance. I just lost me an orange.
The problem is not that the US doesn't have enough oil. The problem is that they are taking more than they need.
As Roman philosopher Lucius Seneca once said, "For greed, all nature is too little."
So, how does this affect humans? Why should we worry about people in the Arctic? Wait, do people even live in the Arctic?
Believe it or not, but people do live in the Arctic. They're the Widget First people who live in northwestern Canada, which is right next to Alaska. These people rely on caribou and other animals for necessities such as food, shelter, warmth from the fur.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
If we don't turn into the Anwar and we have a lack of oil supplies, where are we supposed to get the energy we need?
There are several solutions to prevent drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. To discontinue overconsumption, we should start at the root of the problem, which is oil and gas, a non-renewable resource, and instead replace it with more sustainable options.
And how do you suppose we do that?
After doing extensive research, we found that there are two solutions that are plausible and make a big impact on the world.
They are fuel switching to electric cars and adding more renewable energy to the grid.
Let's start with fuel switching to electric cars. This will eliminate the usage of oil and gas.
Making a drastic change and having the entire population switch from gas to electric cars has many benefits. For example, you'll never have to visit a gas station again because you'll be able to charge your car home, just like an iPod.
Using electricity to power a car is far cheaper than using petroleum in most parts of the world, including Canada. The Nissan Leaf, an electric car, costs a little over 25 cents per kilometer, while the equivalent petroleum car costs around 37 cents per kilometer.
Not only does the electric car have benefits in the short term, it also has long-term advantages. Over time, you won't need to do annual maintenance checkups, which include oil changes, exhaust systems, and etc., which saves you a sizable amount of money.
Lastly, it has the environment's approval. The electric car creates no tailpipe emissions, and if your home is powered by solar, wind, or hydro, your carbon footprint is cut in half from using a gas car.
This also has a positive social influence. Buying an electric car reduces noise made on the road. Yeah, that's annoying.
With every good news comes some bad news. Electric cars take a very long time to recharge. 30 to 40 kilometers takes an hour of charging. In addition, there aren't many electric vehicle charging stations for you to find for your car. Also, they cost around $40,000 to $30,000, which is quite expensive for the average consumer. However, don't fret. Technicians are currently working on the infrastructure as we speak to make charging faster.
Fortunately, there is not much of a choice when it comes to aesthetic of the car. Most are small and compact. But if you want a more aesthetically appealing car, the prices are higher. A Bentley and a Tesla cost the same amount of money, but a Tesla is electrical powered and has the option of autopilot.
To achieve fuel switching, there are a few steps of actions we as Canadians will have to take. With heavy social and political influence and a want for change, electric cars will start popping up everywhere. The government needs to invest in the stock to ensure that the movement of getting rid of petrol cars will get going.
If the government pushes citizens to get electric cars, they can also change each gas station into electrical vehicle charging stations. This can change one of the biggest disadvantages of buying an electric car. However, the biggest way to make a change is to have a heavy social influence. If people want this to happen, they have to make it happen.
The second solution is adding more renewable energy to the grid. Canada has one of the best environments for wind, solar, and hydro energy. This small donut represents 11% of our renewable energy. So far, 77% of our energy is derived from renewable resources. There are many projects in southern provinces of Canada that instate renewable energy. However, there's always room for more, because who doesn't like more donuts?
The Globe and Mail states that Canada could shift entirely to renewable sources of electricity by 2035 and eliminate 80% of greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century.
Canada is already in the process of this as we speak. It's just a matter of time before it becomes nationwide. Economists, engineers, and scientists all believe that the biggest factor preventing Canada from moving forward is political will. However, with Justin Trudeau being elected as the new Prime Minister, there may be new change in the near future. Clean Energy Canada, or CEC, is urging Trudeau to make Canada into a green superpower in the world.
If Canadians push, Canada might just become entirely green.
Again, with the disadvantages, the initial cost of starting up renewable energy projects can cost twice as much as fossil fuels. However, over $700 billion has been invested into the energy industry, and only 3.6% or $25 billion is invested into renewable resources. Despite this, renewable resources create 48% more jobs than fossil fuels in the natural resources sector.
Although startup costs can be expensive, it only takes a decade or so to break point and turn profit. Big corporations can install solar panels to use for electricity they need and put the rest on the grid for others to use. The companies will begin to see that renewable energy costs less than fossil fuels.
Another disadvantage is that reliability is low. Since all of these resources are coming from nature, humans can't fully predict them. And it's difficult to generate in large quantities for a big population. These renewable resources are vast and inexhaustible, meaning that they will never run out. In addition, in the past few years, renewable energy prices have become more stable and almost as low as the cost of fossil fuels. It's only a matter of time before fossil fuels become more expensive than renewable energy. Why not get a head start?
You may not know this, but if you live in Southern Ontario, your electricity is most likely powered by hydroelectricity. Since renewable energy is being accepted and people want to take part in saving the earth, many people will be on board with going 100% renewable.
Having renewable energy will improve air quality, improve the health of citizens, and reduce pollution. Beijing, China had so much pollution in 2015 that factories were shut down and children were pulled out of school. This is because most of the factories, if not all, are powered by non-renewable resources. To make sure that what happened in Beijing doesn't happen to Canada, we need to work towards more renewable energy.
How can you make this happen?
Canadians can start by saying no to fossil fuels. Both the government and citizens need to work together to push renewable energy and shut down coal plants for replacement of wind, solar, or hydro plants. Lastly, renewable energy needs to be more accessible for the average consumer.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk
A
about
better
it.
solution would be to combine the two solutions, adding more renewable energy to the grid and electric cars. In order to use only renewable resources, North Americans could use electricity instead of oil for their cars.
Electricity would be powered by a renewable source, making it 100% clean energy. This is good for the environment because we would not have to drill into the Anwar or the Alberta oil sands for oil.
Not having to drill oil will create a reverse cascade effect, because the places we would usually drill in, we can instead rehabilitate ecosystems to the best of our abilities.
The core idea is that if we add more renewable energy to the grid and switch to electric cars, we won't have to drill into the Anwar and we can keep the animals' habitats intact. There you have it, folks. We've explained what the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge is,
Talked about the advantages and disadvantages of drilling into the Anwar,
and told you how we can fix the conflict involving the Anwar. You have the facts and the stats. Now it's up to you.
Do you want to make a change and protect lives? If so, visit refugeassociations.org.